This was no longer the story of a single field being destroyed. Wild boars were appearing from multiple directions at once, as if the entire area had already been mapped into their movement routes. Fresh tracks cut deep into the damp soil. Heavy footsteps echoed along the fences of the residential area night after night. The most frightening part wasn't their numbers, it was the feeling that the safety boundary was disappearing. A rushed reaction at this point wouldn't solve the problem, it would only spread the risk. So instead of sending people out to chase them down or confront them head-on, we chose a different approach. Divide the area, control movement corridors, and let man-made traps take on the most dangerous work. The goal wasn't to catch as many as possible, it was to stop the spread and keep the community safe. The operation didn't begin with noise, but with calculated silence. Along the forest edge, where old trails crisscrossed like a web, suspended traps were quietly placed. They weren't meant to hold the entire sounder. They functioned as invisible guidance points. Once triggered, the herd was forced to slow down, change direction, and reveal its main movement axis. In the low-lying fields, where boars often break into smaller groups to feed quickly, traditional corral traps formed in closed zones. Their job wasn't to end the situation, but to hold small groups in place, relieve immediate pressure, and prevent the damage from spreading. Closest to the residential area, the most sensitive zone, a remotely activated smart corral trap was positioned at a central point. Unobtrusive, easy to overlook. Yet this was the final lock, where every movement line would be controlled before reaching people's living space.
You may have to walk back just a little bit, Scott. Yep. Come on. Yep. Yep. Come on.
As dusk settled in, the first signal came from the forest edge. A suspended trap was triggered. No chaos, no loud noise, but the signal confirmed something critical. The sounder was moving exactly as predicted. The scout group at the front was slowed, forcing the herd behind it to split and hesitate. At that moment, the entire system began to work. Without this early control layer, the boars could have reached the residential area in a very short time. In the low fields, the corral traps began doing their job. One small group was held steady. The soil stopped being torn up. Immediate pressure dropped. But this was also when the limits of each tool became clear. As numbers increased, control became harder. The main sounder was still behind, moving slowly but steadily. No one rushed to intervene further, because everyone understood one thing. No single tool can control the entire situation. The most important piece had not been played yet. When night fully covered the village, the main sounder reached the intersection of multiple movement routes. They moved more cautiously now, more alert, but still entered the control zone that had already been prepared. At that exact moment, The smart corral trap was activated remotely. Within a short time, the entire large sounder was held in a stable state. No spreading, no panic. And most importantly, no one had to approach directly under unsafe conditions. At this stage, the trap was no longer a capture tool. It had become the final protective layer for the community. The next morning, the field showed no new signs of destruction. Children played near their homes again. The sense of unease slowly faded. The situation ended not with force or confrontation, but with behavioral understanding, planned control, and responsible intervention. When technology is used correctly, it doesn't just protect crops, it safeguards people, livestock, and the surrounding environment. In feral hog management, sustainable solutions don't come from humans fighting nature head-on. They come from knowing when to stay out of danger and letting systems handle the hardest work.
Let's go. Yep. Oh, let's go. Yay, sister. Here you go. There you go.
I'm gonna throw a little sour corn in here. Yeah. Put some more in.
just a few minutes, a herd of wild boars can transform a peaceful backyard into a ravaged field. Trail cameras, deep in the forest and increasingly on the outskirts of residential areas, are capturing a disturbing reality. Wild boars no longer stay confined to their natural habitat. Sometimes, it's just one boar probing the boundary, but more and more often, entire herds of 15 to 30 boars appear in backyards, cultivated fields, or even on the streets, causing total destruction in just minutes. In the US, wild boars are estimated to cause billions of dollars in damage annually to agriculture, infrastructure, and private property. The destruction of farmland, uprooted lawns, and damaged irrigation systems has forced many communities to spend vast amounts of money on repairs. This is no longer a rare encounter. It is an escalating conflict that directly affects community safety, livelihoods, and the living environment of residents. In response to this situation, many localities have abandoned traditional methods like hunting individual boars, which are costly, inefficient, and prone to scattering the herd. Instead, large-scale cage traps and drop traps are being used to capture entire herds in one intervention. The key to success lies in technology. Remote surveillance cameras allow real-time tracking of herd behavior, accurately counting the boars entering the trap and avoiding non-target wildlife. Only when the entire herd is safely within the trap zone will it be triggered. This approach helps reduce the risk of any individual escaping to continue reproducing, limits stress and injury, and prevents the herd from scattering, which can cause chaotic movement. In modern management, the goal is not to catch quickly, but to control effectively. In residential and suburban areas, every decision must be made with careful consideration. In just minutes, a herd of boars can destroy a garden and tear down fences. More importantly, they pose a real danger to pedestrians, pets, and create severe risks for local traffic. Therefore, all trapping activities must strictly adhere to legal regulations and safety standards. Furthermore, humane principles are a top priority. Catching dozens of individuals in a trap is not considered an achievement. These are data points for management, used for forecasting, resource allocation, and long-term strategy development. The success of wild boar trapping campaigns clearly reflects one reality. When the environment changes, humans cannot stand aside. Wild boar control is not a war against nature. It is a process of adjustment to restore balance between humans, animals, and ecosystems. With data, technology, and a humane approach, wildlife management can become a sustainable solution, reducing damage, protecting communities, and respecting natural life. This is not just an issue for today. It is a long-term responsibility for the shared living space we all occupy. If you're interested in seeing how humans responsibly manage wildlife, subscribe to the channel to follow the next real-world situations. In many rural parts of America, mornings once began with the sound of roosters crowing and wild turkeys calmly feeding in the fields. Quiet farmland, washed in early sunlight, carried a sense of peace that farmers had lived with their entire lives. But in recent years, that peace has started to disappear. At first, the signs were small: freshly rooted soil, broken fences, vegetable gardens destroyed overnight. Then, the turkeys began to vanish, without a trace. And finally, people saw them. The feral hogs. Not just a few scattered animals, entire sounders, dozens strong, moving with purpose. Smart, aggressive, fearless of humans. They tear through crops, spread disease, attack livestock, and in some cases, threaten the safety of families themselves. For many farmers, this is no longer just an environmental issue. This is a fight to protect their land, their families, and their communities. Feral hogs are incredibly intelligent. Set one trap the wrong way, and the entire sounder will avoid that area for weeks. That's why rush decisions lead to failure. Farmers begin by studying the hogs. When do they feed? Does the lead hog move first or last? Which trails do they use every night? Only then do the traps go in. These aren't simple snares meant to catch a pig or two. They're designed to drop only when the entire sounder is inside. So the group isn't spooked, and the problem isn't made worse. There are moments that take your breath away. 2 massive traps drop at the same time. 45 feral hogs captured in a single operation. In another location, 27 hogs caught with one clean drop, including the alpha hog, the one that had led repeated invasions for months. But it doesn't always go perfectly. Some nights, the sounder gets close, then turns away. Sometimes, the trap drops a few seconds too early, just seconds short of success. These moments teach farmers one hard truth. Patience is the key to beating wild animals. Many people on the outside don't understand this. This is not hunting for entertainment. Once the hogs are trapped, they're handled through regulated wildlife control procedures. Some are processed according to local law. Others become a legal food source, helping feed families and communities in the spirit of protecting both land and food supply. Transport is one of the most dangerous steps. Feral hogs are strong, aggressive, and easily panicked. One small mistake can injure people or destroy equipment. That's why every movement is slow, deliberate, and guided by experience. Safety comes first, always. And all of this happens while farmers face countless other pressures: harsh weather, unstable crop prices, rising costs. Controlling feral hogs is just one battle in a long list of daily struggles. When the sounders are finally brought under control, the land begins to heal. The turkeys return. Gardens grow undisturbed. Children can safely play in their own yards again. This is a quiet fight. It doesn't make headlines, but it happens every day on thousands of farms across America. Farmers don't see themselves as heroes. They're simply doing what must be done, protecting land they've spent a lifetime working, keeping balance between humans and nature. Sometimes, to preserve peace, people must stand up, not to conquer nature, but to keep it from crossing the line.